Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate it very much, and thanks for holding this hearing. I'd certainly be happy to adjourn the meeting once finished questions with the witnesses. I want to thank the witnesses for being there as well, and start with Assistant Secretary Winberg. Thank you, Secretary Winberg, for all your work on the whole gamut of energy issues there at the Department of Energy. I also appreciate you coming out to North Dakota to see what we're doing in North Dakota. And my first question to you is, you've been part of, and we worked very hard to get the 45Q regulatory guidelines in place. And that's very important so that our not only coal-fired electric plants, but ethanol plants and others can utilize that 45Q tax credit. But my first question is, what else can we do to enhance that tax credit so that we can really get these power plants capturing and sequestering CO2 and do it on an economically viable basis?
Senator Hoeven, thank you for the question. I think there are a couple things that can be done. First of all, extending out to the 45Q tax credit, I think is extremely important because a lot of these companies have been teed up, ready to go for the last 2 years, waiting on the 45Q finalization from the IRS. And of course, in the midst of this time, or during this time period, COVID has hit our country quite hard and has had a profoundly negative impact on balance sheets and income statements. So allowing extending out the time frame for the 45Q will create some flexibilities for these companies that are in very much a recovery mode. Number two, we need to take a really hard look at how long it's taking to permit a variety of CCUS projects. And we have CCUS projects with capture systems and also, as you well know, pipeline systems. And getting permits for the capture system and the pipeline system, and even for the wells, the injection wells, is just an incredibly long period of time. And especially if you're doing a project that has commercial ramifications and implications to your bottom line, those long permitting times are just unsustainable. So I think that's a key to all of this across the CCUS value chain, shortening down the permitting times, and then increasing 45Q, the length of time to utilize it so that these companies can indeed install these technologies and demonstrate to the world that they're commercially viable.
Senator Hoeven, could I just add to the enhancements? This is Shannon from Kirk. In my testimony, I point out to the fact that also, for the reasons that Steve mentioned with the recovery and pandemic, currently taxpayers have to go out to the tax equity market to try to get tax equity investment in the 45Q in CCS projects to fully monetize the 45Q tax credits. Allowing a taxpayer to elect for what we term direct payment, which would be a direct cash payment from Treasury, as an alternative to resorting to the tax equity markets is another way of actually trying to bring more value of the 45Q tax credits into a project and get financing, and opens up the capital markets for that. So that's something that we've been an advocate for in trying to see if we could make a statutory or legislative change here in Congress.
So you would say then that it would be very important to have that direct pay option as well as the tax credit option, correct?
Well, we didn't want to eliminate the tax equity option at the moment, but I think the value would be in the direct cash payment, and likely probably see more taxpayers elect for that as opposed to resorting to the tax equity market. Part of the reason for that might be in coming out of a recovery or going into recovery is it's still questionable how much tax liability even those big investment firms are going to have in the out years in order to actually be able to take advantage of tax equity structures. So I think it's really critical that we move forward with a direct cash payment option in this Congress, but not close out any of the other options that are currently on the books.
Thank you. I agree. Dr. Friedman, I'm going to come to you with two things. That same point that she just made, I want you to give me your opinion in regard to that direct pay option. But also, I want to know if you have any other policy proposals that would bring 45Q in line with, that these value-wise with other existing renewable tax credits. So if you could kind of touch on both the 45Q direct pay, but then also other ideas to enhance the value of 45Q and increase its value more in line with what we've seen with
Thank you, Senator. Absolutely. First of all, I agree with Shannon. Under Section 1603, direct payment is an option. That was done during the 2009 stimulus for a bunch of renewable tax credits. We should create that optionality under 45Q given the current economic crisis as well. I also agree with prior testimony that we need to extend the timeline out at least 5 years in order to get more companies accepting and pursuing this option. That certainty is important. Our center recently published an analysis in April on what it would take to enhance 45Q to get power sector uptake. We looked at coal plants and gas plants, we looked at utility ownership, and we looked at merchants. And basically, to get uptake from utility scale coal plants, something like $60 a ton gets you pretty close for saline aquifer storage. For gas plants, if it's owned by a utility, it's more like $80 a ton or $85 a ton. And for merchant plants, it's more like $110 a ton. People should realize, though, that the wind production tax credit at various times and in various contexts has ranged between $60 and $120 a ton. So this kind of incentive is well in line with other subsidies and incentives that we've provided in the past.
Thank you, Dr. Friedman. I think that's a very important point you just did, and I appreciate it very much.